in different stages of our lives, maybe from our experiences in investing, maybe from our schools, whatever we studied in college or in campus. We've had it maybe from our friends, from our colleagues or our workplaces. And so it's ideally a very common phrase or other word, investing and investments. So all those terms are related. And so, and when you hear someone speaks about investments, I know you have a rough idea of what it means to invest. Probably for some of us, it means buying shares. For others, it might mean investing in bonds. For others, it's investing in money market and those kinds of options. And while that is true, today I want to challenge you, and I want to extend your conventional wisdom and try to push you to see investment as a wider scope than what you've been used to. And to start us off from there is that we need to understand why is this term investing so common, or rather why do we need to invest as people? As I've said, the focus of what you're doing is to impact the young people, or rather the youth, the generational youth, and of course whoever else will be interested. And because we really want to transform your life and make sure that you take control of your finances and march towards the journey of financial freedom, which ideally should be an ultimate goal for each and every one of us. So why do you need to invest? And one reason of why you need to invest is you need an extra stream of income. For me, I personally consider having a single stream of income as suicidal living, because the risks that are involved in that are so many. In case, assuming maybe your income comes through the work that you do, in case you lose your work or something happen, God forbid, you lose a capacity to be productive to your employer, that means if your employer really doesn't care so much about employees, like most of the employers, they'll terminate you and replace you with someone else. And that means your income is cut short. So what happens for you? Your life becomes chaos, and maybe you start struggling a lot. So that will be very different if you had an extra source of income. So one of the reasons why you really need to invest is because you need that extra source of income. My ideal number, or rather recommendation, is for you to have at least 3 sources of income. And if you don't have enough time to engage in investing, probably you might consider having passive investments, which will cover as we progress. The other reason why you need to invest is because you need everyone desires to attain what we call financial freedom. Financial freedom doesn't mean that you have lots of money, or rather you are super wealthy. It just means you have the freedom to make decisions about your finances, decisions that are impacted by finances, but your decision is not pegged on the level of income that you get. Because ideally, a lot of people live in the neighborhoods they live in, or rather they drive the cars they drive, or rather they even have the friends they have because of the income they make. Others go to schools, or rather take their kids to schools they go to because they can only afford those schools. So for us, we want to change that to empower you and empower you to a position that the decisions that you make in your life are impacted not by the level of income that you make, but by the preferences that you have. So that probably if you have kids, you want to take them to school, or rather if you want to go and see a doctor, your choice of doctor is not impacted by the price of what they are offering, but by the quality of the service of that doctor. That's what we call financial freedom. Like where you live is not dependent, is not informed by the level of income that you make, but by the security and by those other reasons, security, transport, and all those other reasons. So the other reason you need to invest is at least attain that financial freedom, so that today you can decide, I want to go for a holiday, and the challenge now becomes, which destination do I go for a holiday? You don't start evaluating a destination based on which holiday can I afford. So your worries and fears about finances change, and that's what you're trying to get you to that level. And then, of course, the other reason is unprecedented occurrences, things that you haven't thought of, and things that you haven't maybe anticipated. like a lose of a job, like the way COVID-19 came and disorganized our lives. And such things are things that we don't, they are risks that we don't anticipate. So if you haven't invested and have an extra stream of income, those things will hit you hard, especially if you lose your main source of income. And we saw it happen during the pandemic, and we wouldn't want it to happen to you later on, or maybe to any of the people that you know and care about. Yeah, the other thing you need to invest is because maybe you would want to retire. Okay, I wouldn't even use maybe, because I'm sure like majority of us would want to retire as early as possible. And for you to retire as early as possible, the trick to that is making investments such that your investments continue supplying you with the income that you are working for. In short, is having money working for you, so that you don't really need to go to work to make an income. Your money can do that for you, even as you continue engaging in other things in life. There are people who would want to be poets, musicians, and all those things, but you can't pursue those passions if because you have obligations and expenses that you have to meet, and your job is the one that sorts all those things, or maybe your business is the one that sorts all those things. So for you to cut yourself off from that, let me just call it slavery in a way, for you to get the freedom from that and maybe pursue something that you would want. Maybe you would want to do some philanthropic activities here and there, maybe take care of nature. You need to invest so that you have an income to cover for your expenses, and then relieve yourself of the need to have to work for you to live. And then the other thing is that's tied, of course, to having resources so that you can pursue other passions. So if you really always you have wanted to do arts, or maybe to be an artist, then you have to invest, because one thing is for sure: consumption is constant. Like whether you are working, whether you're not working, you'll always consume. And so for you to consume, you have to have an income, and the way we get that income is by working. But what if you could have an investment that will give you the income for you to consume? That means you don't have to work for you to consume, and then you have time now to do the things that you want to do. Maybe someone would want to start a church, or maybe you'd want to start a school. So those are the things you can do when you have an alternative source of income. And the way to get that alternative source of income is through investments. And then the other reason is to ward off inflation. Like one of the things that has become so consistent in our lifetime is inflation always rising. And of course, the devaluation of your currency also it has become a constant thing. I know you've seen people complain about how much 1,000 bob can buy today. And if I could just give you a basic example, like a loaf of bread, I think when I was big enough to go and buy a bread. When I bought maybe the first bread in a shop, it was I think it was 22 shillings back then, and I think that was early 2000s there. And from there up to now, the price has more than doubled. So that means I can't use, with the 22 shillings, I can't buy a piece of bread today. Today I have to spend 60 shillings for the same. So that's what we call the devaluation of your money. Your money keeps on losing value. So if you don't invest to sort out that devaluation, that means the money that you are making will continue buying lesser and lesser and lesser. And the problem is, as the money becomes valueless, our employers are not increasing our income at the same pace, or rather to match the rate at which the money is losing value. So for you to bridge that gap, you need to invest and have that extra source of income, so that even if the money loses value, at least you have an extra income to cater for the additional expenses. Guys have been complaining recently about the price of cooking oil and gas and all those things. The prices are rising, but the income remains constant. So that means you need to have an extra source of income for you not to feel the effect. So even if you really don't see the need to invest, at least invest for the sake of the value of your money, because to sustain the life that you are living, you'll have to get an extra income, because if you don't, your money will keep on losing value. I can assure you for sure 10, 20 years down the line, a loaf of bread will probably be 100 bob. So if your money doesn't, your income doesn't increase at the same rate, that means you won't afford a piece of bread. So that requires you to plan for it. And the way to plan for it is invest and get that extra income so that you can sustain or even upgrade your lifestyle. And the other thing is that the other reason why you need to invest, of course, is that you need to prepare for after work life. You know, human beings age with time and our capacity to work reduces with time. So that means no matter what kind of a job you do, at some point you won't have the capacity to do the same job. So that's something you need to start thinking about and change this mentality that we have in Africa, where we work and work and work and work, and then by the time you retire, you don't have any income. And so you start burdening your kids. Like your kids have to sustain you, yet you've worked for 30, 40 years. So to avoid that, you really need to start thinking about that, because there is a time that will come you won't be able to generate that income. And unfortunately, life will continue. Because I'm assuming if you retire at 60 years and then you live up to 90 years, that means you'll have like 30 years of not working. But in those 30 years, life will still continue. You'll have expenses you'll have to sort. And it's even unfortunate you might have higher expenses than you have now, because once you get to those ages, your healthcare, of course, starts to deteriorate. And if you don't have, so healthcare becomes a major expense. So if you don't have money, then you start disturbing people here with fundraising and everything. Those are things that you can start planning as early as now. So this is part of the things that we'll be teaching you how to do it and prepare for it, because it's an eventuality that will happen at some point. And then the last thing that why you need to starting to invest is because it's morally good and godly to invest. I don't know, for those who have read Bibles, you would remember the parable of the servants that were given talents and how the story unfolds. So ideally, that's a very good investment that was made by those guys, and someone got a return, and there was one who didn't invest, and you know what happened to the person. So investing is really good, and it's even godly for you to do that because you've been given